Robyn Brown's tears hit differently this time, because for once they aren't about feeling excluded or misunderstood. This time, she's reacting to something tangible. Something that crossed a legal line. Her own husband attempted to move forward with selling land she partially owned, without her full agreement, and without transparency. That moment shattered the image Robyn had spent years believing about her place in this family. During the January 2026 tell-all, Robyn admitted that Kody pressured her to support selling Coyote Pass without Mary's approval. He didn't ask. He insisted. He leaned on her to fall in line. And when Robyn refused, when she reminded him that she had legal rights too, she was immediately framed as difficult, as obstructive, as the reason everything was falling apart. That reaction revealed the uncomfortable truth Robyn had avoided for years. She was valued for her cooperation, not her voice. This situation was never just about land. It was about power dynamics that had been baked into this family for decades. Coyote Pass simply exposed them under a spotlight. The property was purchased in 2018 for just over $800,000. 14 acres that were supposed to represent unity, stability, and a shared future. 5 homes. One big family. But the plan never stood a chance. Christine never wanted to live there. Mary was willing only if everyone committed. Yanel quickly recognized it was unrealistic. And Kody and Robyn already lived comfortably in a large, expensive home. The dream existed more in theory than reality. When Christine left the family, she walked away from her share of the land for a symbolic $10. Not because it was fair, but because freedom mattered more than money. That decision left 4 owners behind, each with unequal stakes and very unequal power. From the start, Kody positioned himself at the center of control. His name was attached to every parcel. Robyn's appeared more than anyone else's. Mary and Yanel's interests were shared and limited. On paper, it was ownership. In practice, it was hierarchy. By 2024, selling was the only logical option. The land had become a financial drain and an emotional reminder of a family that no longer existed. When an interested buyer appeared, Yanel, Mary, and Kody acted quickly. Documents were signed. Funds were prepared. The sale seemed inevitable. Until suddenly it wasn't. After weeks of silence, Robyn halted everything. She refused to sign unless confidentiality agreements were added. Legal language that would restrict Mary and Yanel from speaking openly or pursuing any future claims tied to past finances. Mary immediately pushed back. She wasn't willing to trade her voice for a check. The deadline passed. The buyer walked away. Public reaction was swift. Robyn was blamed for derailing the sale. But behind the scenes, something far more serious was unfolding. Kody later admitted that he had discussed alternative options with Yanel, including forcing the sale without unanimous consent. He openly said he considered selling the land and deciding how to distribute the proceeds later, on his terms. That statement alone exposed how he viewed the situation. Not as a shared legal responsibility, but as something he controlled. Robyn revealed that Kody specifically tried to get her on board with bypassing Mary entirely. He expected her loyalty. He expected her signature. And when she didn't comply, the dynamic shifted. Not toward respect, but toward resentment. Each person involved tells the story differently. Kody deflects responsibility. Yanel downplays intent. Mary sensed deception early on. Robyn positions herself as fighting for fairness. The reality is messy, because dysfunction always is. But one pattern remains consistent. Kody pushed boundaries. When challenged, he applied pressure. When that failed, he shifted blame. Eventually, the buyer returned. In 2025, Coyote Pass sold for $1.5 million. The proceeds were split evenly on paper. Kody and Robyn shared half. Mary and Yanel received their portions individually. The transaction closed, but the damage didn't. Mary now knows how close she came to being financially sidelined. Yanel understands she was viewed as a strategic ally rather than an equal. And Robyn finally experienced what happens when her interests don't align perfectly with Kody's. Robyn deserves acknowledgement for refusing to approve a sale that wasn't fair. That mattered. But her actions afterward complicate the picture. The confidentiality demands weren't about harmony. They were about control. About preventing past financial decisions from being questioned. About shielding certain truths from public discussion. That wasn't protection. That was leverage. So yes, Robyn was pressured. And yes, Robyn also applied pressure of her own. Both realities exist at the same time. At the center of all of this is a man who designed a system that benefited him, enforced it when convenient, and resisted accountability when it collapsed. This wasn't confusion or poor communication. It was a long-standing pattern of financial dominance and emotional manipulation. Robyn's tears aren't about money lost. She received her share. They're about something far more unsettling. The realization that her position was never unconditional. That the moment she asserted herself, she became expendable. Christine walked away and rebuilt her life. Yanel is investing in her future. Mary reclaimed her independence. And Robyn remains, grappling with the truth she can no longer ignore. Coyote Pass wasn't just property. It was proof. Proof that being the favorite only lasts as long as you agree. Robyn Brown is emotional again. But this time the tears aren't about jealousy, exclusion, or feeling misunderstood in a plural marriage. This time, the emotion is coming from shock. From betrayal. From realizing that the man she trusted tried to move forward with a major financial decision that directly affected her, without respecting her position or her rights. For the first time in this entire saga, Robyn isn't reacting to hurt feelings. She's reacting to a power move that crossed a line. According to revelations from the January 2026 tell-all, Kody Brown attempted to push a property sale that involved land Robyn legally owned, while pressuring her to fall in line rather than treating her like an equal decision-maker. And when she refused, the dynamic between them changed instantly. What makes this moment so significant is that it exposed something Robyn had never fully acknowledged before. Her standing in this family was never based on partnership. It was based on agreement. As long as she supported Kody's plans, she was valued. The moment she questioned him, she became an obstacle. This situation centered around Coyote Pass, land purchased years earlier with the promise of becoming the foundation of the Brown family's future. In 2018, the family spent over $800,000 on 14 acres of Arizona property. The vision was ambitious. Multiple homes, shared space, a permanent symbol of unity. But the dream collapsed almost as soon as it was imagined. Christine never wanted to live there. Mary was only willing if everyone committed fully. Yanel recognized early on that the plan wasn't realistic. And Kody and Robyn were already settled into an expensive home of their own. The land sat untouched while relationships continued to fracture. When Christine left the family, she gave up her share of the property for almost nothing. Not because it was fair, but because walking away mattered more than fighting for money. Her exit left 4 owners behind, but not on equal footing. The way the land was structured ensured that power was unevenly distributed from the start. Kody's name appeared everywhere. Robyn's appeared more than most. Mary and Yanel's ownership was limited and shared. On paper, they were co-owners. In reality, decisions flowed in one direction. By the time selling became unavoidable, tensions were already high. The land was costing money. The family was no longer functioning. Everyone wanted out, but not everyone had the same leverage. When a buyer finally came forward, things moved quickly. Documents were prepared. Signatures were gathered. It looked like the process was finally coming to an end. And then everything stalled. After weeks of silence, Robyn refused to sign. Not because she didn't want the sale, but because she wanted additional legal protections put in place. Conditions that would limit what could be said later. Conditions that raised red flags for Mary almost immediately. Mary refused to comply, unwilling to trade her voice for closure. The deal collapsed. The buyer walked away. And public blame landed squarely on Robyn. But behind the scenes, a far more troubling conversation was happening. One that would later come to light and completely change how this situation was understood. What viewers didn't know at the time was that while the failed sale was being blamed on Robyn's hesitation, another plan was quietly being discussed behind the scenes. A plan that had nothing to do with caution or fairness, and everything to do with control. During the tell-all, Kody admitted that he had conversations about moving forward with the sale even if everyone didn't agree. In other words, selling first and dealing with the fallout later. Kody openly said he was frustrated enough to sell the land and decide how the money would be divided afterward. Not based on ownership. Not based on fairness. Based on what he felt was appropriate. That single statement revealed more than he probably intended. It showed how he viewed the property, and more importantly, how he viewed the women connected to it. Robyn revealed that Kody specifically pressured her to support this idea. He wanted her consent so he could bypass Meri entirely. He expected loyalty, not resistance. And when Robyn pushed back, when she refused to agree to a plan that would leave Meri vulnerable, the tone shifted. This wasn't a respectful disagreement. It became pressure, emotional leverage, the kind that makes someone feel guilty for protecting their own rights. This was a turning point for Robyn. For years, she had benefited from being aligned with Kody. Being supportive had come with rewards. But this time, support meant participating in something that felt wrong. And when she chose not to, she learned a painful lesson. Agreement was valued. Boundaries were not. Everyone involved tells this part of the story differently. Kody frames himself as overwhelmed and pushed by others. Yanel minimizes the seriousness of the discussions, describing them as problem-solving. Meri sensed something was off long before it became public. Robyn insists she fought for equal treatment. And the truth sits uncomfortably between all of them. What's clear is that the power imbalance shaped every decision. Kody believed he could steer the outcome. He believed frustration justified force. And he believed resistance was disloyalty. When the plan didn't work, blame was redirected outward, away from the choices he made and onto the women who refused to comply. Eventually, the opportunity to sell returned. In 2025, the land was finally sold for $1.5 million. The proceeds were split evenly on paper. Kody and Robyn shared half. Meri and Yanel received their portions separately. The transaction closed, but the emotional consequences lingered. Meri walked away knowing how close she came to being financially sidelined. Yanel realized trust within the family was thinner than she believed. And Robyn was left processing a reality she could no longer ignore. When her interests conflicted with Kody's, she wasn't protected. She was pressured. The sale ended the legal ties, but it exposed something far more important. This wasn't just about land. It was about how power was used, how loyalty was expected, and how quickly the rules changed when someone said no. What complicates Robyn's position is that while she resisted Kody's push to force the sale, she also introduced conditions that benefited her in a different way. Her refusal wasn't a clean stand rooted only in principle. It came with strings attached. The confidentiality demands weren't limited to this one transaction. They reached back into old financial wounds that never properly healed. Those legal restrictions would have prevented Meri from speaking freely about how past assets were handled, including the money from her Las Vegas home that helped fund Robyn's current lifestyle. To Robyn, the agreements may have felt like protection. To Meri, they looked like silence being purchased. And after years of being sidelined, Meri wasn't willing to give that up. That refusal shifted the narrative. Robyn, who had long positioned herself as the peacemaker, suddenly appeared strategic. Careful, calculated. And while she was right to block an unfair sale, she also tried to leverage fairness to secure her own interests. That dual role is uncomfortable, but it matters. It explains why reactions to Robyn are so divided. Meanwhile, Kody reacted exactly as he always does when control slips away. He didn't reflect. He didn't take responsibility. He reframed the conflict. Delays became someone else's fault. Boundaries became betrayal. Resistance became disrespect. The same patterns played out again, just with the cameras closer than ever. Robyn's emotional response during the tell-all wasn't just about the land. It was about realizing she was not immune to these patterns. She had watched them happen to other wives for years. She had benefited from them, but now she was experiencing them firsthand. The pressure, the guilt, the subtle punishment that follows disagreement. And that realization hurt. Not because she lost money. She didn't. But because she lost certainty. The belief that her voice mattered more. The belief that loyalty guaranteed safety. When she finally said no, she discovered how fragile her position really was. The irony is that Robyn could have emerged as the clear moral high ground in this situation. She could have stopped the unfair sale and allowed transparency to exist alongside fairness. Instead, she tried to control the narrative while resisting control herself. That contradiction weakened her credibility and reinforced what critics had suspected all along. In the end, the land was sold, but trust was not repaired. Mary gained clarity but lost any remaining faith. Yanel walked away more guarded, and Robyn was left confronting a truth she could no longer avoid. Being the favored wife didn't mean being respected. It meant being agreeable. This wasn't the collapse of a property deal. It was the collapse of an illusion. What really hits Robyn is understanding the limits of her influence. For years, she believed that being the golden wife meant having a special seat at the table. That loyalty, support, and compliance earned her protection. But the Coyote Pass ordeal shattered that belief. The moment she stood up, insisted on fairness, and refused to let Kody bypass Mary, her favored position didn't shield her, it put her in the crossfire. She wasn't crying over lost money. She received her portion. Her tears were about recognition, about respect, about the sudden awareness that Kody values obedience more than partnership, and compliance more than consent. That's a hard lesson for anyone, especially someone who has long believed they were different. The NDA situation added another layer. By demanding legal safeguards, Robyn tried to control a narrative that stretched back years. Past financial decisions, old equity transfers, the Vegas home money, all of it could have been exposed. Her intention might have been to protect herself and Kody, but in doing so, she was also attempting to silence another wife. That blurred the line between standing up for fairness and enforcing her own advantage. Mary saw through it immediately. She knew that signing meant losing her voice and any chance to hold others accountable. And she refused. That refusal turned Robyn's calculated fairness into a confrontation, and the public saw only part of the picture. Robyn's actions were both protective and manipulative. She fought for equality in the sale, but also tried to negotiate control over the past. Kody, predictably, was unbothered by nuance. When his plan faltered, blame was deflected outward. Robyn became the obstacle, Mary the challenger, and he the wronged party. That pattern, pressure, manipulation, deflection, played out exactly as it had for decades. Only this time, the cameras caught every angle. This episode revealed the real dynamic of the Brown family. Power is conditional, loyalty is transactional, and boundaries are only respected if they serve Kody's agenda. Robyn experienced firsthand what the other wives had known all along. It wasn't comfortable, and it wasn't easy to watch. But it was reality. The property sale closed, the money was distributed, but the emotional fallout lingered. Robyn was left to reconcile her tears with her choices. She had fought for fairness, yes, but she had also tried to control who could speak about the past. The tension between those two realities captured the complex role she has played in this family for years. Sometimes protector, sometimes enforcer, sometimes participant in the very manipulation she now laments. And now, after the dust has settled, Robyn is left with a stark understanding. Favor is fleeting, power is uneven, and loyalty can't substitute for equality. She cried on television because she finally felt what the others had endured for years. And for the first time, the lesson was personal. The golden wife had learned that her position depended on agreement, not merit, and that realization cuts deeper than any lost property ever could. After the sale, everything changed, even if the public only saw the numbers. The legal dispute ended, the property was gone, and the money was divided fairly on paper. But the emotional consequences were far from settled. Robyn had learned a truth that the other wives had lived with for years. Being favored didn't mean being respected. It meant following the plan, staying in line, and saying yes when expected. The moment she resisted, she felt the weight of disapproval, manipulation, and pressure firsthand. Mary walked away confident in her boundaries, unafraid to challenge Kody. Yanel strengthened her resolve, knowing exactly where she stood. Robyn, on the other hand, faced a complex reality. She had fought for fairness, yet she had also tried to control others through NDAs. She had been both participant and protector, both advocate and enforcer. And that contradiction left her emotional, conflicted, and finally aware of the conditional nature of her position. The tears on the tell-all weren't about losing money or missing out. They were about realizing that loyalty doesn't equal partnership, and favor doesn't equal equality. Robyn had been shielded by her compliance for years, but now she saw that her voice only mattered as long as it agreed with Kody's plans. Resistance changed everything. This moment was a revelation not just for her, but for viewers who had watched the dynamics unfold for decades. Robyn had been positioned as the model wife, the one who always did it right, the one whose alignment with Kody guaranteed her security. But the Coyote Pass ordeal exposed the fragile foundation of that image. Favor is fleeting, power is uneven, and obedience is never the same as respect. Even after the sale closed, even after the money was divided fairly, the lesson remained. Robyn had a glimpse of what the other wives lived with, and for the first time, the consequences hit her personally. She wasn't just witnessing manipulation anymore, she was living it. And while she had every right to fight for fairness, she had also seen how easily loyalty could be weaponized against her. The tears were real, because the understanding was real. And the understanding was painful. In the end, the Coyote Pass episode didn't just resolve a property dispute. It revealed the true dynamics of power, loyalty, and manipulation within the Brown family. Robyn's position as the favorite wife was not guaranteed. It was conditional, transactional, and fragile. And for anyone watching, the lesson was clear. In this family, compliance is rewarded, resistance is punished, and understanding that truth comes at a cost. For Robyn, that cost was emotional clarity and the realization that being loved by Kody didn't protect her from the very patterns she had long benefited from.